This is the Transform with Travel podcast. I'm Kelly Tolliday, your host, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. After having traveled to 45 countries and living across 4 different continents, it's my mission to inspire you to live life to its fullest, travel with an open mind and heart, and let the world show you a new perspective. Here at the pod, we believe that travel has the power to transform your life. So we bring on everyday adventurers to share their stories, as well as industry experts to help you optimize and enhance your travels, transforming us from tourists to travelers with each and every episode. So buckle up, because we are about to take off. All right, here we go. Welcome to the Transform with Travel podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Tolliday. I'm the co-founder of R&R Wellness Travel and Retreats. And before we begin, to those listening, I'm going to ask a favor of you, and that is to click the subscribe button right now. If you enjoy these episodes, the easiest way to stay up to date with all of our newest episodes and all of our incredible guests, like the one we have today, is by clicking subscribe. I love when I go into my own podcast apps and I see all of my favorite shows at the top with their latest episodes. So I know that you will love this feature too. And that's it. Let's get started with today. I'm actually a little bit giddy right now because I'm sitting here today with someone who I followed on Instagram for a very long time. And she's helped me immensely in my own sobriety journey just by sharing relatable content and educational content. And this year, one of her clients connected us together to manage her retreat this year. And so I'm honored to be having this one-on-one conversation with her on the pod, and I know that you will gain so much insight as well. So without further ado, welcome to Jen Hirst, founder of Lighthouse Sobriety. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's just so cool to see how we connect and how we, through either it's someone that I've coached or if you found me on Instagram, and just thank you so much for having me on.
So for those who don't know her, the real Jen Hirst has been on her own transformative journey since April 24th, 2013. As a dedicated sober coach, Jen boosts women's confidence by integrating simple, effective habits from day one to help them feel their best and make their sobriety stick. Her sold-out group coaching programs have helped hundreds of women from across the world own their sobriety with a get-to mentality and a supportive community of women cheering them on along the way. Her ultimate aim is to empower women to thrive in sobriety. And so why do we have a sober coach on a travel-related podcast? So I know from my own personal experience that drinking on vacation feels as if it goes hand in hand. And speaking to many of our listeners, this is a topic that gets talked about a lot. And this hand-in-hand relationship of drinking and traveling, this makes it hard for those of us who have either decided to remove alcohol completely from our lives or for those who've decided to cut back significantly. And so I'm really excited to have you here today to give us strategies and tips on how to reframe this mindset that travel equals drinking. And so, yeah, I'm just super stoked. I'd love to hear first just about your sobriety journey. I know it's been an 11-year process for you and the personal transformation that you've been on.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know when this episode is going to air, but my soberversary is tomorrow.
Oh my gosh,
Just
it is
wait,
tomorrow.
it's tomorrow.
Yes.
And it's so crazy to think of where I was 11 years ago. And right now, I was in a blackout. It's 10:30 in the morning. I was on my verge of a blackout, and how that kind of all transpired from a girl who was raised in a great family. I got good grades. I went through all the motions. I had great parents. My parents rarely drank. Now, my grandfather was an alcoholic, but that really instilled in my mother to not drink. So I never really saw my parents drink. And when I share my before and after pictures, and this is why I encourage clients, if you are on a sober, curious journey, if you're wanting to take a break, if you're really in this for the long haul, is to take pictures of yourself. And I know it's uncomfortable to do because I don't really have pictures of myself in my darkest state. Not like I was my esteem was enough to want to take pictures of myself. But when I show where I was, you don't really know what was going on inside because I was really good at hiding it. And I share my before picture of my wedding day because that was the beginning of this where it really got bad. But you wouldn't know that if you were to look at me. I'm in a beautiful dress. I have my makeup all done, my hair all done. I'm smiling, but you didn't know that I blacked out. I was struggling with crippling anxiety. I started drinking in the morning. I was taking Adderall just to get through it. And how it really took over my life and took over the things I was passionate about to really, God, destroying my entire life. And so you never really know what's going on with someone. And it's usually the people who excel and the people who appear that they're doing well, the people smiling. So I encourage people to just be kind. For my parents, outside appearances were very important. And that's why I didn't really share about my sobriety into 4 years into it, because I was really nervous about what other people would think. And I thought, especially when I was struggling, that if I sought out help, that would mean that I was broken and that was weak. And that wasn't really taught in my family. And so I did, and I dabbled into drinking. I would say normal drinking. I started at 15. I had my first drink. We raided my parents' liquor cabinet. I thought it was disgusting. We felt the effects of it and felt the hangovers, but it didn't really become a problem until my second boyfriend wanted to go on a break. And I mention this in my story a lot because doing a usage history, which is what I encourage my clients to do if you're on this journey, is to go back to the beginning and write out, about your childhood, about when you started, any big significant life changes, things that happened, and what could have contributed to your drinking, any sort of life events that happened because of your drinking, to really pinpoint and piece together this puzzle of how this all came about. Because more often than not, when you start drinking to when you realize you might have a problem and you can't stop, it's about a 10-year progression. And often people wake up and they don't realize that they now can't control it. And they're like, how did I get here? Well, you can start to unpack and peel back the layers of the onion by doing a usage history. And so it was when my second boyfriend wanted to go on a break in college. And I was living with some guys at the time, and they did Adderall, they did weed, they did all of those things. And I told myself, and when he wanted to go on a break, my mind immediately jumped to my first heartbreak. And that was in high school, and my heart was crushed. And I didn't know what to do with myself. All of the feelings, like your heart hurts, you're just constantly think about it. Should I call him? I don't even know what to do because I thought I was going to spend my life with him. And then when that happened again, I didn't want to feel that again. I'm like, I don't want to go through this again. And so what they said was like, hey, if you take this, which was Adderall, they said, you're going to feel amazing. You're going to feel like God. And I told myself, I don't really do that. I don't do drugs. Little did I know alcohol was a drug. But I thought, what the hell? And so I took it. And from that moment forward, I got the idea, which planted the seed, that anytime life got hard, or anytime I felt any feelings that were uncomfortable, I could just drink because that provided somewhat of the same effect. It took me away from who I was. Now, that didn't happen overnight, but over the course of years and years, and in this time, I started meeting my husband, but I started making some really big mistakes. I got my first DWI, but it didn't really become a problem until the year leading up to my wedding. And as a workaholic, I'm an Enneagram 3, so of course, raised in the family that I was a perfectionist. And I was working full time. I was doing freelance full time. I was planning my wedding all by myself because I didn't ask for help and I didn't want people's help because I wanted it done my way. And I didn't want to burden anybody else. So I just did it all myself. And what I would do in that year leading up to it, and there was moments before this where I had little red flags, obviously the DWI. There was also points where my anxiety, and I would overdrink and I would binge drink and have these horrible hangovers, and anxiety so high that I had to go to the hospital and go in a 72-hour psych stay because I was feeling like I was hallucinating coming off of alcohol. And so I would take these periods off and on, but I didn't ask for help. And the drinking escalated, my anxiety escalated, and that was a period of time where I started giving myself goals. Okay, If you can go 5 days without drinking, you're not an alcoholic because my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, that label scared the crap out of me. I'm like, if I can't do that, that means I'm this. And my image of that was a homeless person with a bag under the bridge. And I was definitely not that. So it was very confusing for me because I didn't fit that image. I was successful. I had a fiance, but I couldn't stop drinking. And so in this period, I would Google AA because 15, 13 years ago, that was the only thing.
Right.
And the only thing that I knew to do, and it scared me. And so I didn't want to do that. I was starting to hide it. I would drink before dates. I would drink before going out. I would drink after we got home. I would drink when he would go out. He wouldn't see what I was doing and no one would know. And what thrives in isolation is this shame. And our drinking behavior that it just magnifies in isolation. And so on my wedding day, I started also taking Adderall to get all these things done. But it was really the day after. And it's so hard to look back at those photos and the video because I know I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this one day that's like one of the best days of your life. But I wasn't there for most of it. I was so worried. I was so scared. It was just so much that I was expected to go back to work a couple days later and I couldn't do it. I literally collapsed. I started drinking all around the clock in bed. I didn't show up to work. And my husband was like, what the hell is going on?
Hey, hey, yogis. Have you ever wondered how you can travel the world and save money while doing it? Do you want your travels to have meaning and purpose beyond the Instagram-worthy pictures? When I was traveling through Southeast Asia back in 2018, I came across Yoga Trade, which connects the global yoga and wellness community with unique, inspiring, and purposeful work experiences and travel opportunities. I was blown away with the idea of being able to not only exchange my skills for things like accommodation and meals, but also be able to connect with the local community on a deeper level and to continue to bolster my resume while I was on the road. Yoga Trade links instructors, students, and wellness professionals with work trade and job opportunities around the globe. They envision a world made better through yoga-based exchanges that improve communities locally and globally. I actually sit down with Yoga Trade's co-founder, Erica Hartnick, for an incredible podcast episode airing in September, so stay tuned for that. So join Yoga Trade's global community of yoga teachers, creative travelers, and wellness enthusiasts. From local community jobs and destination retreats to seasonal paid and work trade gigs, it's all right there on Yoga Trade. Head to www.yogatrade.com for more information and use code TRANSFORM20 for 20% off your first annual subscription. So go ahead, check it out at yogatrade.com.
And so began this 1.5 year journey of seeking sobriety, going to my first AA meeting. So I started there, and admitting to yourself and saying out loud that you were an alcoholic was so hard for me to admit that you had this and that it was something I should be ashamed about. And over time, I became so grateful for it. But it just progressively got worse, where I started dabbling into other forms of alcohol, like drinking mouthwash, rubbing alcohol. I would have periods of sobriety and go back out. I was also dabbling into Adderall to try to cover up the hangover symptoms so no one would find out that I was actually sneaking my drinks and covering up. And it was so exhausting.
Yeah.
And as someone, like I said, who grew up in a great home to now, I really felt myself dying. My parents didn't know what to do with me. My husband didn't know what to do with me. He would kick me out if he found me drinking. So I started to lose things because more often than not, we say, okay, well, that hasn't happened. I still have my job. And I always like to say, just add the word yet. That hasn't happened to me yet. And I thought those same things. And I'm not saying it's going to happen to you, but the more that you continue down this destructive behavior, I was starting to experience it. And I'm someone who's really tenacious. And when I couldn't do this, I just beat myself up and I was like, I can do anything. Well, of course, because alcohol is addictive. It's an addictive drug. It's meant to leave you wanting more. And some people are designed to want it more than others with our brain chemistry, as I learned in this process. And so I was staying at my parents' and I felt like my heart was giving out from taking Adderall to then also drinking. My hands were going numb, and then my withdrawals were so bad that my hands were shaking, and I felt like I was going to go into cardiac arrest, but I didn't want to scare my parents. And I was on my childhood bed, and I just had to keep pushing it until I felt myself dying, really. And I know that's kind of morbid, but I was very stubborn and I tried so hard to make it work. I'm like, I can make it work if I only do this and do this right and do this right. I just couldn't. And so my parents took me to detox today, 11 years ago today. And I came to in the hospital with my mom by my side. And I just started crying and I just said, help me. And that maybe that was the first time I asked for help was in the hospital. And I guess I blew a 0.34. And that scared me, but I've heard people blow higher, but it scared me because I had been doing that for the past 2 to 3 years. Like how I know I drank more than that previously. So how many times did I cheat death and get away with it? But it was there that I made the decision that I was done. And I hope that this happens for people. And so for some people, it's like a light bulb moment. For some people, it happens over time in their sober, curious journey and their sober journey. But it was then that the click happened. And I just said, I'm so freaking done. And I used a swear word there.
Yeah.
And I just said, and I had so much stuff to clean up. I didn't have a car. I had 2 DWIs. I had court the next day. My husband wasn't talking to me. My parents said, you can't come home. So I was literally homeless. But in that moment, I just said, as long as I don't drink, I can't make this any worse. And it was that moment that I just chose to not drink. And I just said, I'm so freaking done. And I'm not saying my life was magically better, but it was so much easier once I mentally said I was done. It was awesome because this inpatient stay, I was fully ready because I say when you want to remove alcohol, two things have to be true. You have to really want it. So you have to want it, not anybody else. And you got to be ready. And I just wasn't ready before. I really wanted it, but I wasn't ready. And I had to go do some field research. So with any client that comes my way, if they're not ready, I'm like, go do some field research. Go prove to yourself that you can manage this and moderate. If you find the answer, oh my gosh, wow, then you have to teach everybody else. Not that I want it, but go suffer enough until you've had those consequences when you're ready and you're ready to do this. And at that moment, I was ready. And so did my inpatient, and I slowly began to rebuild my life. And my husband and I began talking together. I had to rebuild that trust with many of my family members. How were they supposed to know that I was done? And so I just did the next right thing. I got a probation officer. I did house arrest. I did a day in jail. I went to all my required AA meetings. I got my sponsor. I paid my lawyers and thousands of dollars of lawyer debt. I paid for my inpatient stay by myself. And things just kept getting better. Within 3 months, I got a job, or within a month or two, I got a job at a printing shop. I biked there because I didn't have a car. Within 3 months or 4 months, we found out I was pregnant. Within 4 months, I got a job back in my field. Within 6 months, I was promoted. And right before my year anniversary, even though he was supposed to come after, he was 6 weeks early, I welcomed my son. And I was so amazed that I was able to get pregnant. And I know that's not the case for so many women. In my heart, but I just thought, no way could my body reproduce after years of not only alcohol, but like mouthwash and rubbing alcohol. And I even tried hand sanitizer and all of the lengths that I tried to go to manage this. I'm like, there's absolutely no way. And when my body was able to do that, I wanted to treat it with some respect. I'm like, and he's amazing. He's perfect. He's beautiful. He was the best gift to come out of this was my 2 kids because I wanted most was the ability to have children. I wanted children so bad, but I couldn't have that. And people kept asking us, when are you going to get pregnant? Or, you get that after you get married. And I'm like, we can't welcome a child into this until I can actually take care of myself. And it just crushed me. And so, gosh, to celebrate that before my year anniversary was so cool. And I like to say that I got sober to have my kids, and I stay sober so I never lose them. And so I want to treat my body with respect by feeding it good food. Now, I didn't do that initially, but I slowly began to treat my body with respect through movement, through gratitude, through reading, all of these things. And now I really embrace that is, my gosh, look at what our bodies can do when you remove just one thing from
Yeah.
your life.
Your story is one of those stories, I feel like, from my personal opinion, where people do say, but I'm not as bad as that. But I'm not as bad as that, right? And like you said, you were constantly comparing yourself to other people. Well, I didn't blow high. I know people that blew higher than 0.34. Like
That's nothing.
yeah, exactly. So it's like it's a tale of how somebody who, like, seemingly from the outside looking in did have it all, and you're smart, you're beautiful, you're tenacious, you're ambitious, all these things, and how alcohol can disrupt your life in so many different ways. And so taking it back a step to when you would go on vacation, let's say, or you would go traveling with your husband, or any trips that you would do, can you do a little bit, like just a short like play-by-play of how drinking was ingrained to your travels? Because that's really the overall theme of today, is really giving people the strategies of how to navigate this. So when you were at the like peak of your drinking, or the lead up into the peak of your drinking, what would that look like if you were to go on like a 5-day trip to Mexico or something like that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, alcohol would be the center point. I mean, making sure it was all inclusive, making sure, I mean, drinking in the morning and probably all day, making sure to drink water in between. But even in this period, I didn't travel a lot, which I was thinking of this question. I'm like, I didn't really even travel that much. Now, I did a lot of work trips where drinking is the center. I mean, work trips, and I help my clients a lot with that. And I love the free drinks. I didn't have to pay for it. I remember even on work trips, I was so worried because I would do my drinking at night. And so getting back from the hotel, and I took our company car to go get some vodka at night to help me fall asleep. But I missed out on so much of that, especially the next day. I remember we went to the mountains and saw like the elk and everything like that, and I felt like crap. I felt like I was gonna throw up. And it's like you're really missing out on all of that, and I wasn't able to fully experience. And I think that's what drinking does, is it really takes you away from the simple joys of life. And I know that can sound woo woo, but really, as living in the country now, I get so much joy with being outside, and so much joy from like animals and sunshine. And I know that sounds, but it's really, that's where true happiness is it's really in those simple things. And I was just too numb to experience it.
Yeah.
I felt like I needed alcohol to relax, to enhance the experience. And it's totally the opposite.
Right.
I mean, if you know what alcohol does, it doesn't relax you. It actually makes you more anxious. And as little did I know, if I would have known that nugget of information, I think my life would be completely different. But I don't regret it, because I think what my journey did and what sobriety has offered me is a chance to really work on myself, like really work on myself, and then start to accept myself and love that part of me, like love my differences. I mean, if you think of the very nature of going on vacation, is you spend all this money to go on vacation, and you get the resort, or you schedule all these things, or maybe it is just to sit on the beach. But they also have amenities and things you can do, or whether that's, go swimming or go surfing or all of those things. It's like you're really missing out on all of that because you're not fully present for that. You're not really getting your money's worth, because either you're drinking, which takes you away from who you are in the experience, or else you're hungover in bed and feel tired. So you don't really have the energy to do the things and experience this exotic location. Or maybe it is, I'm going to go to Wisconsin. Oh my gosh, there's amazing things that you can do in Wisconsin or Iowa or North Dakota or Seattle. That's where we're going this summer. I mean, so many things. And I can do that because I have energy. I'm not tired unless I get a crappy night of sleep because of perimenopause. That's another topic. But at least I know I didn't do this to myself, and I think that's the joy of sobriety, is that all of these things, and especially going to Disney World in sober, I mean, you do not need alcohol. I don't even know how you could do that with alcohol. I took my kids there last year, and it was dopamine hits on high.
Yeah.
Like I was I mean, of course, it's the happiest place on earth. And I just felt so amazing. And I'm like, alcohol would take me away from this experience with my kids. And I don't need it because holy smokes, there's this ride and this ride and this food and Cinderella's castle and this and this. And it's
Yeah.
so much fun. But I think we don't offer ourselves the opportunity to experience that because we just kind of married this relationship that we need this to have that. And that's
Yeah.
totally not the case.
G'day, mates from the land down under. Just kidding. I'm right here in South Florida enjoying a true blue Aussie coffee, pastry, and meat pie at my absolute favorite cafe here in South Florida, Bite and Coffee. That's BYTE and Coffee, located in Lighthouse Point. Bite and Coffee is owned and managed by the absolute best couple from down under, Dan and Kat, who moved to South Florida from Melbourne, Australia with the dream of bringing the incredible Aussie cafe culture to the States. As someone who's lived in Australia for 5 years, I surely do miss my Aussie flat white coffee, brekkie buns, and sausage rolls. But what I miss more is the sense of community when you step inside your favorite cafe. You know that feeling when you walk in and they already know your order and it's ready to go? Yeah, that kind of feeling. Bite and Coffee brings the good vibes, delicious food and coffee, and the true sense of family. I can bring my little girls for breakfast and know that they are welcomed. If you're living in South Florida or just visiting and passing by, I highly recommend heading over to Bite and Coffee and grabbing a coffee with your breakfast or lunch, or even checking out their incredible wine and beer selection with a delicious charcuterie board at night. It's the perfect spot for a catch up with a friend or a business meeting. As a special gift to listeners, when you order at Bite, be sure to mention Transform with Travel for 10% off your order. So go ahead and check it out. Bite and Coffee, located in Lighthouse Point. You did mention very briefly there, and I'd love to go into, you thought alcohol was relaxing you, but actually, like scientifically proven, causes anxiety in certain individuals. So can you explain just a little bit about what alcohol actually does to our bodies and minds, and maybe some of those like lesser known effects that people don't realize is actually happening?
Yeah, I mean, the big one is the anxiety. And it's so crazy because it's marketed to relax us.
Exactly. I know. I'm like, what the heck?
And you're like, I mean, there's actually, you know, how they have the alcohol in Target, and I was walking by and there was a bottle on display that's called Relax. And I'm like, this is not true, guys. They're lying. It does not relax you. But I bought into it. I mean, it's fed to us as this. So we start to believe that because that's what we see people do. Maybe after a hard day at work, or, you know, going out for this, or after you put the kids to bed, you do this because that's your treat. And so we marry these associations. But some of the kind of the lesser known things, I really like to focus on the brain. And I think that's what's most important to me, because if I'm not in charge of my mental health and my brain starts to deteriorate, that's my worst fear. And I didn't realize the impact that alcohol has on the brain. Now, again, number one is it increases anxiety, like tenfold. Like Laura McGowan says, it's like pouring gasoline on it. Whatever you're using it for, it's going to magnify it by like 10 to 100. But we don't really notice that. We're just like, well, I'm stressed at work, I'm doing this. No, it's actually from the alcohol. And I just read in someone's Instagram that alcohol remains in your brain for up to 14 days after your last drink.
Whoa.
14. Isn't that
14.
crazy?
I've heard 3
days.
or 4, but 14.
No.
Wow.
Withdrawals are usually around 3 to 5. Now,
Maybe
alcohol
that's
can
it,
stay in
yeah.
your body for about 10 days.
Wow.
Now, if you're not going 10 to 14 days without alcohol, you're not really experiencing the benefits, or you're not really giving yourself a break. And what I like to tell people, especially with sleep, how alcohol can impact your sleep, in just one glass of wine can throw off your quality of sleep. It's been proven, scientifically proven. But if you're not even going 10 to 14 days without it, you're probably in a constant state of sleep deprivation, but you don't really notice that. You're like, well, I'm just tired, and the kids, and I have my job, and maybe it's perimenopause, and it could totally be that, but it could also be the alcohol. So if you have an Oura ring, That could also be an indication as well to kind of check how you're sleeping. But knowing that it stays in our brain for about 14 days, and who I love to follow is Doc Amen. He's my favorite. I love him. I love his supplements. I love his research and his also stance on alcohol because as someone who doesn't have a problem of its impact on your brain. And so how does it hurt it? Number one, it shrinks brain volume. So people who even drink a moderate amount have smaller brains. And number two, it damages your prefrontal cortex. I think that's what's really dangerous about this is it's taking away or it's calling off the control center in your brain. Of course, I'm responsible for it. But in my right mind, I didn't want to drink and drive. I didn't want to sleep with this person or do that or say this. But my control center was offline. It was like sleeping. So I have no control. And it's scary because I was in blackouts. And so I have no recollection. You're like walking around and you have no idea and no memory of what you did. And that's really freaking scary. So it damages your prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of decision making and your self-control. And the third one is really big because it lowers the blood flow to the brain. So this can cause brain fog, poor decision making, trouble concentrating, impulsivity, and all of these things, especially the low blood flow to the brain, increases your risk for dementia and Alzheimer's. Yeah. So that's really big. And even there was another study, a Harvard researcher studied over 3,000 people, men and women, and did MRI scans and found that the brain volume shrank in proportion to alcohol consumed and that there's atrophy, so shrinkage, was greater even in the light to moderate drinkers compared to non-drinkers. So the smaller brain, how it affects your brain, it damages, it hijacks your prefrontal cortex, and also it lowers that blood flow to the brain. But also, I think what goes unnoticed is that so many people who drink are kind of living at 70% of their potential. And I know John Mayer did this reel, and I thought it was so good, is that, again, if we're not giving ourselves a big enough break, so I always encourage people to do 30 days, but actually 100 days to really feel those benefits of sobriety, to take a break for that long, because it really takes a while to rebalance and recalibrate the chemicals going on and to help you to feel better, to start to boost dopamine naturally and to feel happier. You really need that big of a break. But when most people are drinking and not going these periods without it, we're kind of operating at 70% of our true potential. And when you're sober, you're accessing 100%. You're fully there. And so I feel like we're kind of in this matrix of, if you have any inflammation or if you feel groggy or not going after that dream job or not going after what truly lights you up, and even in your job performance, we're not operating at what we could be. And when you're sober, you're really taking in all senses. You really have a lot more energy, more sleep, more time. You feel younger. I mean, even like beauty, the best beauty secret around, stop drinking. It's like, it'll reduce about 100%. 10 years of your life or on your face.
I was just thinking about that this morning. I was looking at my hair, and I've always had like naturally thin hair, and I'm like, wow, I got some thick hair right now. And it's been 6 months since I stopped drinking.
Oh my gosh,
it was amazing.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
That's amazing.
But you're so right. Like the best beauty secret is stop drinking.
Stop. And that's why I say take a before picture, because you don't have to show it to anybody, but I always see it. What you're going to see is your day 1 to day 30, day 60, day 90 is less inflammation, less puffiness. And I always see it in the eyes. The eyes become clear and brighter, and people are happier. But I just posted a woman who I started with privately, and now she's over a year sober. She's coming up on her 2-year soberversary. And I posted her before and after picture with her blessing. She posted it on her page, and it's incredible what she's accomplished. And just even in her face, I mean, the glow up. Oh, the hydration, because alcohol is really diuretic. It's going to suck all that moisture from your skin. The glow, the sparkle in her eyes, you can just see the pain of her. She was on day 3 then, to where she is now and what she's accomplished. She just launched a podcast.
Wow.
She hosts our Self-Care Sunday meeting, and she showed up for herself, and she put in that work. She did the hard stuff, and now just freaking look at her. And Like that's one of the joys I get from my job is just seeing women change before your eyes
Yeah.
and seeing what they can do now. And as a woman, my gosh, the biggest women's empowerment, the biggest stance you can do is to not drink.
Yep.
Because holy smokes, look at your potential. It is one of the most empowering decisions that a woman can make is when you aren't stuck. And I feel like when we drink, we're kind of dreaming with the lid on. And when we stop, we're removing any roadblocks. And now we get to dream with that lid off. Now what can I do? And I think that's a question that so many people ask themselves is, well, now what do I do? Like, holy smokes. Like, I have all this time and energy and I feel good. What do I want to do? And some of these women are in their 70s in my program. They have so much left to do.
Right. So if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, wow, I could feel this. Like I could feel the energy. I can feel this momentum. I am either newly sober or I want to cut back on drinking, but I have a trip coming up, but I have this, that there's a wedding. Like there's always something going on, right? So if someone is recently sober or wanting to go alcohol free and they have a vacation coming up, you spoke so eloquently about the inextricable link that we sometimes feel societally conditioned, subconsciously, maybe by viewing our parents growing up drinking on vacation. Like there's so many different reasons why we feel this need. But I think something that you hit on was marketing, this amazing, whoever does alcohol's PR, big alcohol's PR, like we need them. They've done such a good job at telling us that relaxation equals like drinking equals relaxation. So as soon as you get to that airport, you feel that craving, right? And then you land on the beach and they ask you if you want that drink that's in the all-inclusive resort or whatever it is. What are some of your top strategies for navigating this? Because this is not just not drinking on vacation. This is overhauling a lifetime's worth of conditioning, of experiences that you've had. Something that I find really interesting is that I look back, I've traveled a lot, and I look back at a lot of my travel experiences, and they do have drinking involved. And some of the funniest stories that we can talk about, there's a drinking story, or we were at this bar, I met my husband in a pub in London, in Dublin.
I met mine at a brew fest.
So,
Yes.
I mean, come on, like some of our most life-changing stories happened while traveling with drinking involved. So I find that is a really hard thing to overcome. I was going on a trip. We went 5 weeks to Southeast Asia in January with my family. The little girls came, everything. Last time I was living in Southeast Asia, we had our 40-ounce changs and we went out and we had the drinks I was like, wow, I don't know how I'm going to handle sitting on the beach with my husband, where the last time we were here, we had drinks in our hands. So, and I did it and it was fine. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for you, as a sober coach who have coached hundreds and hundreds of people, what are some of your top strategies to navigate this total overhauling of this mindset?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I love that you said that it was fun. I did have some fun memories, and I totally did too. But I also know that alcohol wasn't serving me anymore, and that if I wanted this life, I had to reframe it. And what I love to do with everything, and I do these Get To Saturdays, is, and maybe you've heard this before, but turning this FOMO, this perspective that we need alcohol to relax, like what is this going to look like, this fear of missing out, to the JOMO of the joy of missing out with this Get To mindset. So I really like to think of it as, what do you get to do? Like thinking of this next vacation and knowing that you're going alcohol free. Think of all the things that you get to do, because you're going to have more energy. You're not going to feel like crap in the morning. You remember how you got to sleep. You remember what you said. So you're not going to have that shame and guilt. No more embarrassing texts. No more embarrassing moments. So think of all the things that I get to do is, my gosh, I get to wake up and watch the sunrise. I get to fully enjoy this meal. I get to indulge in this delicious dessert. I get to go out on the town and feel great. I get to sign up for this. I can do that. All of these activities that we get to do. I get to go to bed and know exactly what I'm doing. I get to make memories that I'm going to cherish forever. If there's one thing that I love to do with my family, it's experiences. And I'm not missing out. I'm missing out if I choose to drink. I'm missing out on this. I only get 8 more summers with my son. I'm missing out on connecting with him. And so, yes, you're missing out on the alcoholic drinks if you do a resort. You can order mocktails instead. So little switch. But you're also missing out, like I said, on the resort amenities, the sunset, the mornings, the food, fully taking in your investment. I want to make the most of it. And so you're missing out on that experience. So really focus. If you find this FOMO of like, oh, this, and they're doing this, it's like, you know what? What do I get to do? I get to get up, go out for a run on the beach, go horseback riding on the beach. I get to do yoga and not feel like I have to chase water because I'm feeling nauseous, all of those things. Because vacations are really meant to recharge you and not deplete you. I mean, we should feel recharged from a vacation and not feeling like we need a vacation from a vacation. So ask yourself, why do I go on vacation? What's the goal? Is the goal to get hammered? Does alcohol really relax you? Do you think you need alcohol to have fun? And if you say you do, really get curious and ask yourself questions. Why is alcohol required to have fun? Why can't I have fun just by being myself? And if I don't know what that is, that's up for you to explore. Schedule activities. Before we go into that, number one, so the get to mindset, frame it from I have to I get to do this. Observe it, get curious, ask questions. Decide that you're not drinking. So often we're like, I'm going to try not to drink. I'm just going to do my best. Well, that's really fuzzy. Make it black and white. Decide that you're not drinking on this vacation and do not question it. That doesn't mean I can't have a virgin margarita or a virgin daiquiri or maybe some coconut water because I want to stay hydrated, especially if you're out in the sun. That's really important. And then visualize. So I really believe in visualization. I do it every single morning. And taking yourself through the vacation. And this is exactly what I did before my last inpatient stay. I saw this life that I could have. And I used that as motivation to keep doing the next right thing. Even though I had so much to do and so much to clean up, I'm like, I'm doing it because I believe that's possible. And it's so crazy that that is now my life, if not even more. And so see it in your mind, and then you can have it play out in real life. And it can kind of take any anxiety you have away. So if you close your eyes and you walk yourself through the entire trip as your best sober self, see yourself going through the airport, getting on the flight, arriving at your destination, how good you're going to feel. What are you wearing? How do you feel when you wake up? What workouts do you do? Did you take a walk on the beach? What did you eat? Where did you eat it? How did it taste? What are you drinking? Imagine walking yourself through the door on your return home and how freaking proud of yourself you are. So play the movie forward, go through the entire vacation, what activities you have planned, all of the things. How do you want to feel? I want to feel really good. I want to feel relaxed. I want to feel recharged. That's what vacations are doing. They're supposed to fill up your batteries and not deplete them, right? And then the get to mindset, plan and prep. This is huge. So a simple taking like 10 minutes, writing out what you plan to do. Like, what do you want to do on this next vacation? And that includes creating a traveling toolkit. And I say to create sober toolkits, I want you to create one for this trip. So things that are going to help you to stay sober. So number one, you can have one for the flight. You can also have one for the trip. So if flying freaks you out, create an in-flight toolkit. And what do I mean by that is things that you can do in the airport as well as on the plane. So maybe that's an activity. That also means packing some protein, because protein is really important to make sure your sugar levels don't get too low. Powdered drink mixes. This is huge. You bring the mocktails with you. And what I just learned is Recess has these mocktail powdered drink mixes. Fantastic for travel, you guys. I'm going to promote this super hard. All you need is water or club soda or a sparkling water. Everywhere has that. So if you're like, they don't have any mocktails where I'm going, make it. And that is your responsibility to offer that, because you cannot rely on other people to supply that for you. Not yet. Now I know that's going to change here really soon as more mocktails are being offered. But for now, always pack more. You can also pack some calming tea. Make sure you pack your earbuds, a sober book, and a sober podcast to read about it, to listen to it, so you have that language in your ears, to have that motivation of maybe if you're sitting at the airport, I always say don't sit, get up and walk.
Right.
Like listen to a sober podcast, get up and go for a walk, grab maybe like your favorite like a People magazine. That's what I love to do. I spend like $10 on it because that's how much they are. And then maybe you can get like a treat. Maybe it's like a cup of coffee, your favorite Starbucks cup of coffee, like make it special. And then walk, Move your body. You're going to be sitting for 2 to 3 hours. Get up and move your body. Listen to the Sober podcast. I swear that helps a ton. Also, you can bring hard candies and gum for those sugar cravings. Even dark chocolate is really good. So make sure you have some snacks packed, some treats packed, a book, maybe something to do on the flight, something to do on vacation. And then when you're on vacation, try and plan those morning activities because yes, you can sleep in, but by doing that, that's also going to help you stay accountable because this is something that you get to do. You get to wake up, you get to go surfing, you get to take this class, you get to go take a walk here, you get to go visit this coffee shop. I mean, visit all the coffee shops. That's where a lot of sober people hang out. Just go to like the different local coffee shops. That's really exciting. You can also set boundaries before you go. That's really, really big. So whether you're going with friends, whether that you're going with a partner, letting them know ahead of time what your goal is can just take off any anxiety, letting them respond however they're going to respond. So a great podcast to listen to if you have a fear of what other people think is the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Now I know she's coming out with a book with that, but having conversations with others so they can support you because people can't help us if they don't know what we're doing. And so this doesn't have to be big. It can be as simple as, and I always like to call this a complimentary like boundary sandwich, is where you start with something positive. You state your boundary, which is what you will and will not do. And because decide this, and you can plan this out, you can write this out of what are some things that I do not want to do, that maybe it's be around them when they're drinking, or after an hour, I'm going to go back to my hotel room. Or if things get a little too rowdy, find that safe place. Have something, whether it's a treat or a calming tea waiting for you. And don't be afraid to leave if something is too uncomfortable. But when you start with something positive, saying, if this is your partner, then like, look, hon, you know what? I'm so excited to go on this trip with you and spend some time with you. And then you state the boundary. And you just let them know what you feel, how you're feeling. You know what? I'm kind of nervous because this is my first sober vacation and I really need all the support that I can. And so here you can ask them to not drink with you. But again, they can make their own decisions. You don't know how they're going to respond to that. Boundaries are really what you're going to do and not trying to control someone else. So you could ask them, or, you know what, if anything's too triggering for me, I'm probably just going to go back to my hotel room or else I'm going to go for a walk. You can have a signal, but stating what you need ahead of time and having their support is huge. And then you end it with something positive. You know what, this is really important to me and I can't wait to relax and take that surfing lesson with you. Or even when you're your friends, I have many clients do that with friends, of talking, having a really short conversation beforehand, letting them know you're not drinking and why, because chances are they're probably going to ask why. It doesn't have to be this big thing. It's like, you know what? I gave it up for 6 months like yourself and I'm feeling really good and I want to continue it. Or I feel so much better without it, but I really want to hang out with you guys. And explaining to them what you will do to take care of yourself. You know, if something is a little too uncomfortable, say, you know what, there might be times where I just go to my room to recharge and I don't want you to feel like there's anything, you know, to do with you, but that's just for me. As I kind of learn to navigate this, since this is my first sober vacation, I'm kind of learning how to go about this.
Oh, you hit on like 3 questions with that. So that was perfect.
There you go.
That was amazing. Because the main thing that I get asked a lot, and we do have some questions from listeners when I posted, hey, I'm talking to Jen Hirst who has questions, and everyone was raising their hand. But one of the biggest things that people ask is, what do I do when I go on a vacation with friends or a partner who are drinkers, who are partiers, who are the main event of this vacation is to go around and get hammered. And you just hit on that perfectly and so beautifully. And 9 times out of 10, your friends and or partner will be supportive of it. And it's fine. And it's really up to you as the person who's making this decision ahead of time. Because as you said, things get a little gray. It's a gray area when you give yourself that leeway to make the decision on the fly. When you make that decision for yourself and you let them know ahead of time, it's really freeing when you know that no one's looking at you seeing if you're going to order the wine or not. Like, they just know that you're not going to, and they support you in that capacity. Hopefully, fingers crossed, if you have a great partner and great friends. But what I've found in my experience is I have friends will go to the beach, they'll pack a cooler, they'll all pass beers around, and then somebody will hand me the soda water. Like, here, do you want a soda water? Like, they've thought of me. It's really sweet. And I think It's just a matter of you having to voice that for yourself and advocate for yourself, and joining communities like yours, the membership program that you have, the Instagram community that you have, to realize that you're not alone in this, and to realize that there's thousands of people around the world that are also not drinking on vacation. I think CNN did a story recently about how dry tripping is the new trend right now in 2024 into 2025, people going on vacation as groups and not drinking. And so I think it's just it's getting, the movement is happening. I'm sure you're seeing this. You're, one of the leaders in the industry. Like, I'm sure you're seeing this movement happening, but it is still something, as someone who's new to this lifestyle, as someone who's new to sobriety or sober curiosity, it is something that's really daunting. Like, we've talked about this inextricable link between drinking and travel. And you did touch on, in that process of making a plan for yourself for the airport and the plane, and also for the trip itself. I'd love to hear just a little bit before we wrap everything up about your thoughts around, oftentimes when I go to the airport, you see, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., the bar is lined up. And what I found with traveling and not drinking is you start to feel the craving when there's a lot of waiting around to do. For me, at least, when you're waiting for the airplane, when you're at the pool at the hotel and there's nothing to do except relax, and our brain's just kind of like, wait, what's happening? Like, I need to do something to take me out of this relaxation. So why do you think the airport, and this is another question from the audience, from the listeners, is why is the airport so triggering for people to want to drink?
Great question. And I think, honestly, it's kind of like a bar crawl. I think people have referred to it. It's like bar, 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 bar,
Yeah.
bar. And so you see others. And I think when we get to the airport, we're kind of like little rebels. Like, I can drink whenever I want. I can drink because it's
Right.
9 a.m. and I don't have work. I don't have this. So it's kind of like we're like little kids again. And I think because we get a little bit nervous before and excited, we're probably nervous and excited. It's like the beginning of the
Stressed too.
trip. Yeah. And like you're afraid. I always say a prayer on the plane. I'm just like, please let us get it. And the turbulence. And so, and again, just as waiting around, you like, if you think about it, even the anticipation, I always like to say the anticipation is worse than the actual event of like going to the airport and the vacation. Is this anticipation of we hurry, hurry, hurry. Chances are we're like rushing to get everything packed. We're like, hurry up to get the airport, then get to a cab or park our car, do this, get through security. And then it's like, okay, then we get a break. Okay, now what do I do? And then it's like, oh, bar, 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 bar. Okay, well, let's get a drink. Let's get a drink. And so I think it's just, again, those feelings of excitement, stress. It's new. I'm a kid again. And all of those things can be a little bit overwhelming for us. And then we're just expected to sit and just wait until we get on. Again, these messages that we feel like, well, alcohol will help relax you. Just have a beer, have a glass of wine, and then we can just take a nap on the plane. Whether you know it or not, you're still going through withdrawal. Then when you get to the place, it's like, then you're already withdrawn unless you keep drinking. And the very nature of alcohol is it's very addictive. It leaves you wanting more. So maybe you order one on the flight and then one thing leads to another. And so you really got to reframe the airport. But like I said, have that sober language in your ears, go for a walk, and make sure, and I love what you pointed out, make sure you're part of an alcohol-free community. Whether you're test driving sobriety or not, you need to have people in your circle who understand what you're going through that you can check in with. Maybe that's, hey guys, I'm going to the airport. I'm kind of nervous. Oh my God, we got you. Do this and this and this. Text us when you're there. Blah, 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 blah. So you have people that understand you, because chances are if you surround yourself with drinkers and that's your only support, whether my husband is not part of my toolkit, he loves me, he supports me, he doesn't understand it. Now that's where the women's community comes in. That's where my community they understand what it's like to not be able to stop. They understand the fear that we can have on vacations and not drinking. And having that to plug into is super huge, can also make you feel like you're less alone in this,
Yeah.
that it's actually, and I love to see that it's getting more coverage
Yeah.
and that more and more people are intrigued. And if you're the only one in your group of friends who is not drinking, congratulations, because you're a trendsetter, you're a trailblazer, because chances are people just don't even know that it's possible to go on vacation and not drink and have a great time. Once you get there, chances are it's going to go even better than you imagined. But have you be that lighthouse, raise your hand first, and let others know that they do have an option. There's an opportunity here that you don't have to drink to do this. And could I be open enough to experience this just to see how I feel? And just ask yourself that question. I just want to see how good I can feel. I just want to see what going on vacation feels like without drinking. Can I be open to that? And then just go from there. But at least give yourself that option. And if you are the only one, you have no idea how many people are looking to you for that guidance, or who may be also questioning your drinking, because chances are you probably have a lot of drinking friends, and it's normalized because that's what you do together. So when one goes rogue, you might be influencing another person. Not saying they have to, but a lot of people just don't know that it's possible until they see someone else. It's like, oh, well, look at Kelly. She's like doing that and she's feeling great. She's drinking a mocktail and she's this. God, I want to have that.
Yeah, it's super. I mean, honestly, in the last 6 months, I've had people I never in a million years would have expected to come up to me and say, hey, I've also been thinking about doing XYZ. Can you send me your favorite drink, your favorite mocktail, your resources? And I would say that 5 weeks through Southeast Asia, man, I mean, I have the most amazing accountability group here in South Florida. And one of the main reasons that was really keeping me not drinking was that accountability. No one would have judged me if I ended up having a drink or going back on my sobriety promise I made to myself. But I didn't want to have to go to them and even say I did. Like, having a group of people that are cheering for you is so important. And I do want to touch on your membership, but one of the questions from the listeners that we got was, why do we feel like we get a hall pass when we go on vacation? Like, let's say you're going on a trip to Italy or France. Well, I have to have a glass of wine. It's Italian wine in Italy. And what I really loved is that reframe that you said, well, think about what you get to do. Instead of drinking that wine, you get to go on that 10-kilometer hike the next day. You get to go. There's so many more things to do than it just being revolved around drinking. And so I think that that's going to be a really important piece for people. I found with the 5 weeks through Southeast Asia, the actual true joy of traveling, the connecting with new friends, meeting new people, learning more about the language. Like, those are things that were all happening in previous trips, but I didn't realize that that was the true part of travel that was giving me the happiness, not the backpackers hostel bar in Vienna. Like, fun stories, but like, it's really getting underneath. It's really getting the true juiciness of travel when you take away this substance that takes us out of the present moment. And so everything that you said, I think, is going to help people so much. And if someone's listening right now who is thinking, I could really use someone like Jen in my corner, how can they connect with you? What is your membership coaching like? And just giving a way for people to, find out more about how they can learn from you and grow with you.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, is you got to find a community of people that, like you said, no one's going to know if you don't have that community and if you don't tell anybody. So, and what I wanted with Lighthouse Sobriety, and that's exactly how that name came about, is that when I heard that, and I think I heard Dean Graziosi say it, he's like, be the lighthouse and light the way for others. And that's what lighthouses do. They stand tall and they stand proud and they shine bright in this choice. We don't encourage other people. We stand in this. And so what Lighthouse Sobriety is, it's a community of women who all want to feel better in sobriety. And what I wanted to do was make this a fun experience of you making this decision. I think we can go into it and think that our life will be ho-hum. It's going to be boring. What am I going to do for fun? How am I going to relax?
How can I travel?
How do I travel? I actually had a whole topic on it in my last course, traveling sober, preparing for sober travel, your travel plan, navigating the airport. And what I wanted 11 years ago, when I was looking to get sober, I and I went through all the history of my drinking, but I don't really understand and learn how to live sober, of real life scenarios. How do you handle a partner that drinks? What do you say to people? Having that travel plan, all of those things that I would have wanted, but I want to do this in a positive way because I really feel that that's what sobriety is. It's a positive decision, and it's not something I'm going to hide about or not talk about. I hid in the closet for so many years about this, and I felt indifferent about that. And the moment I came out was the most freeing and empowering choice that I've ever made, was starting to come out of the closet and starting to share about it. And so what we do inside the membership I'd be so happy if any woman was interested. Is it's a monthly membership and we have daily meetings. And when I say meetings, it's, we have one that talks about if you have a partner that drinks. We have Feel Good Friday, we have Mantra Monday, we have Self Care Sunday, we have coffee talk Saturday. So I like to make this fun, but also we talk about the hard stuff too. There's also craft nights. We have guest speakers. I coach monthly. And so our topic this month is the top 10 foods to support your sobriety. So the food plays a huge role in how you feel. But then also next month, we're going to dive into grief. And I know that's kind of a morbid topic, but there is a sense of grief that comes when you remove this from your life, whether that's losing a person, but removing alcohol. For many of us, we developed a relationship with it. But then we're going to talk about sober events, and we're going to talk more about food. We're going to talk about into sugar cravings and the importance of exercise. And because that's what I feel sobriety is. It's not just not drinking or meetings. It's so many other things of moving your body, feeding your mind with books, connecting with these women. And that's what this membership is. You're going to connect with women from across the world who are all doing the same thing and all wanting to feel your best and embracing this choice, but also having some fun with it. And so I coach monthly. We have daily meetings. We have workouts. We have a nutrition section. We have a sober book club. And not that you have to do all of those things, but I really want to make sure you have the tools available to you to make this a lifestyle, and a lifestyle that you love, and a lifestyle, this get to lifestyle. So that's what the membership is, and it changes and it evolves every single day. And I really try to listen to feedback of what's going to help you most. What do you need? How can I help you? And then if you want to dive deeper, then you can get into my group coaching programs, which I run a few times a year. That's more intensive, that we work really closely together to get you to where you want to be, from giving up alcohol to then starting these habits, which I really believe in, of drinking water, reading, gratitude, moving your body, and then getting you to a place where you feel good in sobriety. You feel good physically and mentally. And I show you how I did it, how I would have wanted it to be shown to me 11 years ago.
Amazing. And I think it's such a testament to you and your community that we're now helping you manage your retreat for your membership clients, exclusively for your membership clients. And there's women flying in from all over the country that are, requesting to be roommates together. And some of these women have never met in person. They're just like, they've become such strong friends through your program. So I'm so encouraging everyone to check out your membership program. You have so many different challenges and ways to stay connected on different levels of investment. So I think it's just an amazing resource for people. And I finish these episodes with just 3 quick rapid fire questions, like one word. I know you're not prepared for this. Let's see how it goes. And then we'll close it out for how people can connect with you. So number 1, what country or place has made the biggest impact on you?
I think where I live now.
Oh,
It's in the country has had the biggest impact on my mental health.
Oh.
And I love it. I absolutely love it.
That's amazing. Number 2, what's your go-to travel accessory or must-have item?
Powdered drink mixes. I make sure I have all my supplements and all my snacks and powdered drink mixes. I never go anywhere without it.
I love that. That's like such a biggie for people to continue to feel well on their travels. And then number 3, what's the biggest life lesson you've learned while traveling?
That you don't need alcohol to have fun. That it's so much better.
Hell yeah. I love that answer.
Oh my God. And if you think that if you feel like you need alcohol to have fun, there's this quote that says, if you think you need alcohol to have fun, is it really that fun? Mm-hmm. If you feel like you need it, and really take that into account. If I feel like I need to drink for this to make this better, then maybe it's just not your thing. Maybe it's just not fun for you. And that's incredible information.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, that's probably just not my thing. Now, okay, well, maybe I should try something else. And when you feel that natural high, that natural joy you feel, that is a testament of that's my thing. Now I know what I like. I don't need alcohol to enjoy this because it's fully enjoyable without it. And because I felt like that, I love experiences, but Disney was just like, of course for my kids too, but I'm like, for myself, I'm like, we're going there every other year. But this year my husband's planning, and this is the joy. I know we're at time, but like the cool thing about having a good community is we're going to Seattle this summer. I know at least 2 women, if not more, in the membership. I reach out to them. I'm like, hey, we're traveling here. Would love to meet up. They're like, yeah, you have women all over the country. If you travel, chances are there's going to be another sober woman in the membership who would love to meet up for coffee, go for a walk. And it might feel awkward to do that, but my gosh, if you put in the effort, you're going to make these best friends for life.
Yeah.
And when you actually meet them in real person, it's so cool. And that's why the retreats are so awesome. And thank you so much for helping us with that.
Absolutely. We're having so much fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And that's the beauty of online and memberships and communities. You have women all over the world that are here for the same reasons, and we just want to help each other.
Incredible. So how can people connect with you? What's the best way? Instagram? Like, how do you want to share?
Yeah, I like to hang out on Instagram. For now, it's Jen Lee Hirst. And then I'm hanging out in my membership primarily right now until my group coaching program comes up, but I hang out a lot in there, and you can join that at joinlighthousesobriety.com.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I will definitely be utilizing all these tips on our next trip. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Transform with Travel podcast. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode of inspiration, adventure, and exploration. If you felt inspired by this episode, please rate and review in whatever streaming app you're listening from. This allows us to spread the word even more and continue to serve up weekly doses of adventure. As always, we'd love if you could share the episode with someone in your life who you think will benefit from this conversation. Thanks so much for listening. This is your reminder to get out there and keep on exploring.